Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Haunted Hall of Mirrors. The Isle of Wight had always been a peaceful haven, where the whisper of the waves was the loudest sound heard after dusk. But that serenity was shattered when a carnival rolled into town, its arrival heralded by garish posters and the infectious excitement of children. Among its many attractions, one stood out with particular intrigue and unease: the Hall of Mirrors. The poster claimed it was a mystical place, revealing one's true self. Holly Arnold, a lifelong resident of the Isle, was both curious and skeptical. Holly was a writer, her days spent weaving tales of fantasy and horror. The arrival of the carnival was a welcome distraction from her writer's block. She decided to visit, not just for amusement, but for inspiration. She had no idea how horrifyingly real her next story would become. The evening of her visit was brisk, the kind that makes your breath hang in the air like ghostly mist. Holly wrapped herself in a thick scarf and made her way to the carnival, the cacophony of music and laughter growing louder as she approached. Her eyes were immediately drawn to the Hall of Mirrors, an elaborate structure adorned with gaudy lights and swirling patterns. She bought a ticket and stepped inside. The air within was colder, almost damp, and filled with a peculiar metallic scent. Holly looked around, her reflection staring back at her from every angle. The mirrors seemed ordinary at first, reflecting her tall, slender frame, her sharp, green eyes, and her short, auburn hair. But as she moved deeper into the maze, the reflections began to change subtly. Her face twisted into expression she wasn't making, her eyes flickered with malice, and her mouth curled into sinister smiles. She paused, feeling a chill run down her spine. The further she went, the more distorted her reflections became, until they were barely recognizable as her own. Panic set in as the maze seemed to close in around her, the reflections watching her with a predatory intensity. Suddenly, one of the reflections stepped out of the mirror. Holly screamed and stumbled back, her eyes wide with terror. The doppelganger was her exact replica, but with a cruel glint in its eyes and a malevolent smirk. "Welcome to your true self," it hissed, its voice a chilling echo of her own. Holly turned to run, but every exit was blocked by more doppelgangers emerging from the mirrors. Desperation surged through her veins as she tried to fight them off. Her blows landed on cold, unyielding flesh, like punching through water. The doppelgangers laughed, their voices blending into a cacophony of madness. They circled her, their eyes glowing with a supernatural light. Holly's mind raced, trying to remember the layout of the maze, but it was useless. The reflections distorted her memory, turning the maze into an inescapable trap. "Why are you doing this?" Holly cried, her voice breaking with fear. "We are your true selves," they replied in unison. "We are the darkness within you, the parts you deny, and now we will take your place." Holly felt a cold hand grab her wrist, and she yanked it free with all her strength, breaking into a frantic run. She darted through the maze, the laughter of the doppelgangers echoing in her ears. Her breath came in ragged gasps, and her heart pounded like a drum. She knew she had to find the exit, but the mirrors twisted and turned, leading her deeper into the labyrinth. As she rounded a corner, she collided with another figure. To her horror, it was another doppelganger, but this one looked just as terrified as she felt. "Help me," it pleaded, its voice trembling. Holly hesitated, her instincts screaming to run, but something in its eyes mirrored her own fear. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm you," it replied. "The real you? They're trying to take our souls." Holly felt a surge of defiance. "Then we'll fight them together," she said, gripping the doppelganger's hand. Together they pushed forward, their determination driving them through the maze. The doppelgangers swarmed around them, but Holly and her double fought with every ounce of strength they had. They shattered mirrors, disrupting the reflections and breaking the doppelgangers' hold on reality. Finally, they reached the exit, bursting out into the cold night air. Holly collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath. Her double stood beside her, the two of them sharing a moment of relief and understanding. "Thank you," Holly said, her voice hoarse. "For fighting with me," the double smiled, a genuine warmth in its eyes. "We are stronger together," it said before slowly fading away, leaving Holly alone but no longer afraid. Holly left the carnival that night, her mind reeling from the experience. She knew she would never forget the horrors she had faced, but she also knew she had faced her darkest fears and emerged victorious. The Hall of Mirrors had revealed her true self, not the darkness within, but the strength she possessed to overcome it. The carnival left the Isle of Wight the next morning, leaving behind only whispers and rumors. But Holly carried the memory with her, using it to fuel her writing. Her stories took on a new depth, filled with the raw emotion and strength she had discovered within herself. And every now and then she would catch a glimpse of her reflection, and she would smile, knowing that she had faced the darkness and won. Holly returned to her quiet cottage on the outskirts of the village, feeling a strange mixture of relief and lingering dread. Her typewriter sat waiting for her on the wooden desk by the window, the paper untouched for weeks. She poured herself a cup of tea and sat down, her fingers hovering over the keys. The experience at the Hall of Mirrors had given her plenty of material, but she needed time to process it. As the days passed, she found herself haunted by fragments of the encounter. Shadows moved in her peripheral vision, and she occasionally caught glimpses of her doppelganger in reflective surfaces. At first, she thought it was her mind playing tricks on her, but the incidents grew more frequent and harder to dismiss. Her nights were plagued by nightmares where she was trapped in the maze, surrounded by sinister versions of herself. Determined to understand what had happened, Holly began to research the history of the carnival and its mysterious Hall of Mirrors. She spent hours at the local library, poring over old newspapers and records. To her surprise, she discovered that the carnival had visited the Isle of Wight many times over the centuries, always leaving a trail of strange stories and disappearances in its wake. The Hall of Mirrors, in particular, had a dark reputation. It was said to have been crafted by an enigmatic figure known only as the Mirror Master, a man obsessed with reflections and the hidden truths they revealed. According to legend, the mirrors were enchanted, capable of opening portals to other dimensions. Those who entered the hall were confronted by their darkest selves, and only a few ever returned. Holly's curiosity turned to resolve. She had survived the Hall of Mirrors once and felt a duty to uncover its secrets and prevent others from falling victim to its horrors. She reached out to other survivors, finding a small but determined group of people who had faced their doppelgangers and lived to tell the tale. They shared their stories and strategies, forming a plan to confront the Mirror Master and destroy the hall once and for all. The next time the carnival arrived, Holly and her newfound allies were ready. They gathered outside the Hall of Mirrors as the sun set, their faces grim and determined. Holly led the way, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. The air inside was just as cold and oppressive as she remembered, the metallic scent even stronger. As they ventured deeper into the maze, the doppelgangers began to appear. But this time, Holly and her friends were prepared. They carried enchanted mirrors of their own, crafted to repel the dark reflections. The doppelgangers hissed and recoiled, their forms flickering and dissolving as they were confronted by the true reflections of Holly and her allies. Finally, they reached the heart of the maze, a grand chamber lined with the most ornate mirrors Holly had ever seen. At its center stood the Mirror Master, a tall figure shrouded in shadow, his eyes glowing with a malevolent light. "Welcome," he intoned, his voice echoing through the chamber. "I have been expecting you." Holly stepped forward, her enchanted mirror held high. "This ends tonight," she declared, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. The Mirror Master laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down Holly's spine. "You think you can defeat me? I am the Master of Reflections, the Keeper of Truths. You cannot hide from yourselves." "We are not hiding," Holly retorted. "We're facing our fears and reclaiming our souls." With that, she and her allies raised their mirrors, reflecting the Mirror Master's image back at him. The chamber filled with a blinding light as the enchanted mirrors amplified the reflections, creating a feedback loop that grew stronger and stronger. The Mirror Master screamed, his form dissolving into a swirling mass of shadows and light. The mirrors around the chamber shattered, the maze collapsing in on itself. Holly and her friends were thrown to the ground, the world spinning around them. When the chaos finally subsided, they found themselves lying in the clearing outside the carnival, the Hall of Mirrors reduced to a pile of broken glass and twisted metal. Holly looked around, her breath catching in her throat. They had done it. The Hall of Mirrors was no more, and the Mirror Master was defeated. She helped her friends to their feet, their faces reflecting the same mix of relief and disbelief she felt. As the carnival packed up and left the Isle of Wight for the last time, Holly felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in months. The nightmares faded, and the shadows in her peripheral vision disappeared. She returned to her cottage, her typewriter no longer a source of frustration but a conduit for her newfound strength and clarity. Her writing flourished, her stories filled with the raw power of her experience. She became known for her tales of overcoming darkness and confronting inner demons, her readers drawn to the authenticity and depth of her words. Holly had faced the darkest parts of herself and emerged stronger, her soul intact and her spirit unbroken. And every now and then she would pause to look at her reflection, a small smile playing on her lips. She had faced the haunted Hall of Mirrors and won, and she knew that no matter what darkness lay ahead, she would be ready to face it with courage and resilience. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like and even better like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had a great day.